felt so sweet. It felt so strong. It made me feel.
My mom doesn't go to church, but she reads her Bible daily and prays often. She entrusted my religious education to my aunts. I grew up going to Baptist churches, fidgeting my way through Sunday school, and dreading the long service that followed. I believed and loved God, but at church he was made out to seem like an omnipotent force who would banish you to hell if you dared to cross him. When I was 8 or 9, I overheard my aunt talking to someone about abortion rights. I didn't really understand the concept, but I knew where my mom stood on the issue, so I spoke up. I'm pro-choice. My aunt turned to me, wide-eyed and a little frightening, as she said, Anjelica, you really need to rethink that stance, or you just might be going to hell. I hadn't seen my grandma for a couple of weeks when my mom got the phone call. And it wasn't until we were in the car that she told me what happened. Anjelica, Grandma's in the hospital. She had a stroke. What? Is she going to be okay? I don't know. My grandma was found on the floor with a broken glass and a pool of red soda next to her. She never gained consciousness and died a week later. I was despondent. I couldn't understand why God had to take her. I sat in my room, angrily writing a letter to him in my journal. Why did you have to take her? I hate you for this, and I will never forgive you. I was confused when my religious aunts and uncles began fighting over the house Grandma left behind. The once seemingly tight-knit family I had grown up with shattered. My mother chose to disconnect from them, emphasizing that I could always visit them. But I made the decision to stop going to church with my aunts, effectively choosing my mom over the rest of my family. So it wasn't until college that I tried to find a spiritual home of my own. I went to a Catholic university and, on a whim, made an appointment with a priest. Between our opposite political views and his disbelief that I had been raised as anything but Catholic, I decided that wasn't the answer. Next, I went to a Quaker service. I had read about Quakers in an American history course, and it sounded fascinating. I recharged by spending time alone in silence, but their service was way too quiet. Finally, while I was in graduate school, I decided to visit the Baptist Student Center on campus. I attended a few services, expecting to feel at home, but I just couldn't reconcile the person I was becoming with the narrow views espoused from the pulpit. After graduation, I moved back home. I took a job that paid little and was mind-numbingly boring, which only exacerbated my post-grad blues. This depressive episode made me realize that while psychotherapy and a good psychiatrist are essential to managing my mental health, I desperately needed spiritual guidance. Following my gut, I searched online for the nearest synagogue. As I looked at the map, I was surprised to find that Temple Emanu-El was located next to the cemetery where my beloved grandmother was laid to rest. I took it as a sign. After an encouraging email from a temple staff member, I began the conversion process. My mom had a reverse reaction to the news. She started supportive, but as my journey progressed, she grew more concerned. Wait, so what do Jews think about Jesus? She asked. Well, Jesus was a Jew, and he was a good person and teacher, but they don't believe he's the Messiah. What? Are you trying to decide whether or not to pray for my eternal soul? Yes. I thought she was joking, but the expression on her face told me she was not. When Rabbi Kim declared that I was ready to go to the mikveh, a sort of Jewish baptismal pool, the only thing I could think was that my rabbi was going to see me naked in a glorified kiddie pool. When the day finally came, my mom drove me. Why can't you just come in? I asked you about this last night, and you said you would. I don't want to come in. I want you there. This is really important. Why do you want me there? This isn't my place. You can't expect me to accept this. My heart broke with every word she said, but it was anger that drove me out of the car and into the synagogue. I don't want you there anyway. I slammed the door and stomped off to the entrance. When Rabbi Kim arrived, I burst into tears, relaying in between heaving sobs the parking lot incident. Do you want to reschedule? I know how important it is that your mother be a part of this. Before I knew it, something clicked inside my head and the words came tumbling out of my mouth, surprising even me. I can't always do what she wants. With that, my feet carried me to a turquoise bathroom where I stripped and took a quick shower, wrapping myself in a towel. With no makeup, no eyeglasses, no clothes, I entered the mikveh as I had first entered the world. I stepped down into the water, which was startlingly warm and suddenly soothing. Without a cue, I immersed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al ha-tevilah. Blessed are you, Adonai, ruler of the universe, who has sanctified us with the mitzvot and commanded us concerning immersion. I took a deep breath and let the water overtake me again, lifting my feet off the bottom of the pool. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shekianu v'kiyamanu v'hikianu la'zman hazeh. Blessed are you, Adonai, ruler of the universe, who has kept us alive and sustained us and enabled us to reach this day. As I emerged from the water, I saw Rabbi Kim smile. The witnesses who stood outside yelled their mazel tovs. This small pool of water had just changed my life. Do you want to take one more dip? Asked Rabbi Kim. I sank back into the warm water, which wrapped around me like a mother's embrace. After the rabbi and witnesses signed my conversion certificate, I walked outside and found my mother was still there. We drove home in silence. The formal conversion ceremony was later that day. I assumed she wasn't going to come, so I was surprised to find her ready to go when I came down the stairs. I walked into that inconspicuous space as Anjelica Nicole Ruiz, born Thursday, May 7th, 1987, to Elizabeth. Coming out of the water, I was now Miriam Ora Tikva, born on the 17th of Nisan in the year 5773 in the Jewish calendar, to a community of Jewish mothers and fathers. For me, those two names and identities are not independent of each other. I'm still my mother's daughter, the little girl who loves warm flour tortillas fresh from the skillet. And now, as an adult, I pair them with matzo ball soup. My mother remains a source of unending energy from which I draw strength. I simply veered from her path onto my own, a prospect that once felt like jumping off a cliff. This was a critical turn in the road. Judaism has brightened my life by giving me an extended global family. I now have the courage to pursue things I never could have dreamed of before, like traveling the world or being on a first-name basis with my congressman. Even though my mom was uncomfortable with my Jewish identity, she pushed aside her feelings as she watched me hold the Torah in my arms and affirm my covenant with the Jewish people. I will always be grateful to her for that.